Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and this week's block is called Flight of Swallows. So here is my block. Now there's a lot of pieces in it, but they're just half square triangles and single triangles. So I hope you will stay with me and I'll show you how to make the Flight of Swallows block. Okay, I have all the pieces for the Flight of Swallows block here. For A, B, C, and D, you're going to need the same pieces, and what you need to cut are 4 3-inch squares, and then you're going to take 2 of those squares and you're going to cut them on the diagonal like I have here. So those are all the same. E is 2 7-inch squares, and you're going to cut them on the diagonal, so you'll have 4 triangles, and F is 8 3-inch squares. So I'm going to adjust the camera and we'll get started making the Flight of Swallows block. Okay, the Flight of Swallows block is made with 4 identical quadrants. So we're just going to make the same section, the same unit 4 times. So we're going to start with the A squares and the F squares. So I'm going to leave these triangles here and keep them marked. And then I'm going to take 2 F squares. Now the F squares have a diagonal line drawn on the wrong side, and we're going to make half square triangles. So we'll come up with 4 half square triangles from this. So we're going to put them right sides together, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of that drawn line, and that'll give us 2 half square triangles. So I have my 1/4 inch foot on, and I'm going to go ahead and sew on both sides of that line. And I'm just going to chain these pieces together, so it'll help speed things up a little bit. I'm going to turn them around and sew on the opposite side. Okay, now I'm going to snip these apart, and then I'm going to cut on the drawn line here. And you can use your rotary cutter if you want to. It's just easier for me to grab a pair of scissors and cut. Okay, so this gives us 4 half square triangles. Now these need to be trimmed down to 2.5 inches square. So I'm going to press towards the dark fabric, and then I'm going to measure these, and if they're not 2.5 inches square, then I will trim those down. Okay, so I have these all trimmed down to 2.5 inches square, and then I'm going to repeat this with all of the rest of these pieces. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and finish this unit, and then I will make all the other units. So we're going to sew these together, and we're going to follow the block diagram that is in the pattern, and we're going to need the triangles that we cut from the A squares too. So I'm going to adjust the camera again, and I'm going to show you the layout for these. Okay, so we're going to use 3 out of the 4 half square triangles, and we'll use 3 out of the 4 triangles here. So we'll have a couple of leftovers that can be used elsewhere, and we're going to lay the triangles out like this. So you have your darks are going to be on the outside, and then these triangles will fit in here, and this will make just one large triangle. So we're going to just lay those in, like here and here. Okay, so that's what we're making. And so we'll have this row and then add this piece here. So I'm going to start by sewing these two pieces together and then adding this triangle, also those two together, add this one, and then add them all together. So I'm going to change the camera view again, and we'll go back to the sewing machine and get started sewing this unit together. Okay, I'm going to start by sewing those half square triangles together that were in that top row. Okay, so we have those. And they needed to go like this will be the top of the block. And then I'll add this triangle here to the end. So that'll go here. And I'm going to line up those raw edges and sew that triangle on. Okay, so here's the top row, and let's do the second row. That's just one half square triangle and the dark blue triangle. Okay, so here is that one. So I'm going to be pressing all towards the dark here, and then we'll add the last triangle. Okay, so we have these two rows here, and they're going to go like that. So I'm going to just flip this over and sew it, and I've pressed the seams in opposite directions here so that these two areas will nest, and there are points right here to match up. So I'm going to use my pin method and go through the point of this unit into the point of the one that is being sewn to, and nesting those seams together. And then repinning that, and we'll see how this turns out. Okay, and here we have that section, and last thing I need to do is to sew on the half square triangle down here. So we're going to lay that on, and I'm going to trim off this little dog ear there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the top half of that unit. So it's a big triangle. So I'm going to press this, and then we need to add the background triangle. Okay, so here it's all pressed. Now I'm going to take this over to my cutting board and I want to measure this because I need 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and this is a little bit more because these pieces were cut at 3 inches and then cut in half. If they had been cut at 2 7/8, it would be closer, but I'd rather have them a bit large and then trim down as I need to. So I'm going to check that, and then we're going to add the E triangle, which is this. Okay, now I'm going to sew the 2 triangles together, and the background triangles are just a touch larger than the piece triangle, which is okay. And I'm going to go ahead and pin this, since this is a long stretch to sew. And go ahead and sew these 2 together. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, so here's the square. Now I'm going to press, and then I will trim this down to a 6 1/2 inch square. Okay, so I trimmed this down. It really didn't need much trimming at all, just a few threads worth. I think it turned out really well. So I'm going to go ahead and make the other 3 sections, and then we'll put them together in the block. Okay, so I have all of the units finished now, so I am just going to sew them together and into a 4-patch. Okay, so here are all of the pieces, and just arrange them however you want. This pattern, they have the pieces all going in the same direction, so all pointing out. So just arrange the colors the way you like them. For me, in this block, I don't know that it's going to make any difference whether I move things around or not. They're all going to, I've got 2 of them or 3 of them that have blue in them. This one is the darkest. I kind of wanted to put him up there, and then these others are, they have some blue in it, and then this one has yellow. So I think I will just do them like that, and I think that'll look okay. So this is a good block to use your scraps with, but anyway, I'm just going to sew them in 2 rows and then sew the rows together. So I don't have to worry about matching seams, but I do have points here that I don't want to cut off in the back. So however you want to do this, if you want to put the seams on top when you sew them, or if you want to put the solid piece on top, either way is going to work. So just choose whichever method you like. I'm going to try just putting my solid section on the top. It's just easier to sew. So let's get started on that. Let me make sure my ends are matching up right there. Okay, I'm going to press these seams in opposite directions, and then I'll sew the rows together. Okay, so here is the top row, and here's the bottom row. So let's sew those two together. Okay, I'm on the last seam, sewing the two rows together. Okay, let me press and we'll take a look at the block. Okay, here's the completed block. This is the Flight of Swallows. Has a lot of pieces, and it's a different way to put a block together than what we've been doing the last several months, but I think it's a pretty block. So I hope you'll give this block a try. Okay, that is it for the Flight of Swallows block. This one really isn't too difficult. There's just a lot of pieces, and you're working with some single triangles as well as half square triangles. So a little bit different, but I think it's a pretty block, and I hope you'll give it a try. Now, if you like this video, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.